He did the monster mash. It was a
Well, it's spooky season. Hey guys, my name's Miranda and happy Halloween Eve. So today, in honor of Halloween, we are going to be doing a book review, which I haven't done in a really long time, and I promise these stitches on my face are purposeful. I didn't just slap makeup on myself for fun. Today I will be reviewing the book The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. Now the stitches make sense. This is a spoiler-free video, so feel free to sit back and relax whether or not you've read the book. So let's go. Before I can begin accurately describing this book, I feel like I have to actually first describe and explain Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, because these two parallel each other, if you didn't already figure that out. If you haven't read the classic book Frankenstein, there are a few things I need to clear up so that things aren't confusing. So the first thing I want to clear up is Frankenstein actually is not the name of the monster. In Hollywood, actually, the monster is known as Frankenstein, but it's not. It's actually the last name of the person who made the creature. So Victor Frankenstein is the name of the person who made the monster. They just call him Frankenstein because it's his last name and it's easy. Despite popular belief, the creature actually is never given a name in this whole book. So, and that's actually very symbolic in itself, but I won't get into that here. So one of the big differences between these two books is that Frankenstein is told from Victor's point of view, the creator's point of view, whereas this book, if you couldn't have guessed it, is told from Elizabeth Frankenstein's point of view. Now, Elizabeth is not actually related by blood to the Frankenstein family. She was actually adopted in. The Frankensteins basically rescued her from a very abusive and unhealthy situation when she was young, and she was raised as Victor's cousin, basically. So they call each other cousin, but they're not really cousins. If you think they're actually related, it could get really weird later on in this book, but they're not actually related by blood. Now that I've given the background information, I feel like I can actually start reviewing this book. So yeah, this book, I really have no words to describe it. It is very unique, and I really enjoyed how Kiersten White took the original story of Frankenstein and told it from someone else's point of view. This novel basically gives you an insider's look on how Elizabeth views the monster and how Elizabeth views Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, through it all, because she actually is in love with him. That's not really a spoiler. You kind of know that going in. She sees him as almost someone she needs to protect, and he also protects her. So that develops throughout this whole story, and what I really thought was so cool is that you get both the story that is happening now, or not now, but you know what I mean, present day in this book. You get the present day, but you also get flashbacks to their past to further develop their characters and show how they got to know each other and how they got to where they are right now. And then once you get that scene set up, you are then plummeted into the rest of the story to see more growth from these characters. So it's basically growth upon growth upon growth upon growth, and you get to really see their uphills and their downfalls. Wow. Now, for those of you wondering about the horror aspect of this book, it's not incredibly scary. I've never found the book Frankenstein, like the actual story of Frankenstein, to be very scary. If you do, then you'll definitely be creeped out in this book, but I've just never tickled my fear bone, so. But this book definitely is grotesque and very, very wicked in a lot of the ways that it describes things, because obviously the monster was created from limbs of people. There are scenes where you find out how Victor came to find the limbs, and you see his laboratory and everything like that, but it is very cool, and I think Kiersten White did a very good job with not making it too gross. There are some moments where Kiersten White kind of downplays the things that happen, and then there are other times where she escalates it, and you can really see the difference between those and how Elizabeth responds to them in different ways. For those of you wondering about the similarities between this book and Frankenstein, I definitely have to say that they are very, very similar. This book definitely does a great job following the plot line of Mary Shelley's book, which I really appreciated because I really like when people are able to take a classic and put a twist on it while still keeping up with the plot. So that was really, really interesting to read. However, there are major things that happen here that don't happen in the original book. I am a little bit upset about how she switched the roles of the protagonist and the antagonist. You wouldn't know about that unless you read the book Frankenstein and then read this book, because you obviously wouldn't really know who the antagonist and protagonists are. But in this book, she kind of twists them a little bit, and she makes good people seem like bad people and then bad people seem like good people. I'm still not sure how I feel about that. I'm okay with it. Like, I think it was really, really excellent how Kirsten White executed this story. I really can't explain it without giving away some things, but it's very creepy and twisted. Something else that I would just give you a heads up on is that this story is definitely on the slower side. The original classic Frankenstein is also a very slow-paced novel, so Kirsten White almost adopted that pace and made it her own as well. It definitely escalates at a lot of parts in this story, so it goes slow and then it speeds up and then it goes slow again and then speeds up, and the last 10 pages are probably the most mind-blowing I've ever read ever. So like, you have that to look forward to if you start reading this book. Overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I'm totally someone who loves classics, so I liked seeing the parallels between them, and Kirsten White did an excellent job retelling the story of Frankenstein. If you go into this thinking you know what's gonna happen because you read Frankenstein, you are definitely wrong, and I know that because I went into reading this book thinking, oh my gosh, I already know what happens, I already know who dies, I already know every single page in this book. But I was definitely proven wrong because Kirsten White twists it, and I know I've said that so many times, but it is definitely true. She twists the plot to her own making, and it's beautiful. So yes, I do recommend it. Definitely. Alright guys, that will be all for this video. I love you all. Please be safe, make good choices, especially around this season, and I will see you next Monday. Bye!